Over the centuries, the city of Manchester has delivered us many wonderful things. The band Oasis, the song Wonderwall, and the brothers Gallagher, amongst so many other positive things. Sadly, on the 22nd of May 2017, an Islamist extremist suicide bomber detonated a shrapnel-laden homemade bomb as people were leaving the Manchester Arena following a concert by American singer Ariana Grande. Now, numerous documentaries about this event have been made, but according to documentarian Anton Arenko, who hails from Stockport, just outside Manchester, quote, "I was coming to the end of my first year at UCA and seeing a lot of documentaries that were coming out 1 year on from the attack," says Anton. "I thought a lot of them were very negative and stuck with the narrative of the horror of that evening, which of course you can't ignore, but I knew that many people were also making positive efforts to respond and those weren't being talked about at all." End quote. Which sadly makes sense. If it bleeds, it leads has been the mantra of many news organisations for decades. However, instead of grumbling on his Twitter, Instagram or TikTok, he picked up his camera, got a fundraising effort going and made a Manchester story, showing that light can come from darkness, which is among the most admirable things I can think of. He then reached out to me and asked for an honest review, which confused me slightly, as I'm not sure if he thinks he's got in with a bigger film channel than he has, or if he considers some of my reviews as dishonest, which mildly annoyed me. Assuming he simply meant that he didn't want me to pull my punches, I'll simply quote Captain Barbossa from the first and best Pirates movie,
"Don't dare impugn me honor, boy!"
and we'll move on again as friends.
We have an accord.
Now, I don't typically review documentaries as I don't really have much to say. Not because I don't watch any, I just find the scope for critical analysis slightly limited, as the questions I ask myself about documentaries do tend to be slightly more limited than the ones I ask myself about the latest offering from Marvel, etc. Essentially, I ask me, myself and I, did this documentary teach me more than I knew about the thing it's meant to be about? Were the talking heads in focus and talking about the thing that the documentary is about? Were any dramatic reenactments above the level of a secondary school production? All boxes checked? Fantastic. 5 stars.
Shut up and take my money!
And I really would love to give this documentary 5 stars. I truly would. But there were little niggles as I was watching that I felt could have been worked on. A few rough edges that might have needed to be sanded off. For a start, this documentary has no narration, no going on a journey, as so many documentaries annoyingly claim. Instead, it allows the stories to speak for themselves, which is fine on one level, but on the other, it can make the different stories feel unconnected to each other. As if I'm not watching a cohesive 90-minute story with multiple strands, but a series of 15-minute shorts based around a central theme and with the same starting point. Like when Saturday morning kids cartoons re-edit a few episodes together and call it a movie. Whilst I understand wanting to tell as many positive stories as possible, some connective tissue might have helped with the documentary's flow, and as such provided a more rewarding experience instead of simply feeling like several really great and interesting short stories welded together for the sake of making a documentary, as opposed to a series of short films. Because that's really the major issue here. Whilst I get wanting to tell as many positive stories as possible, wanting to spread as much light as possible after an awful, horrific event, I really and truly do believe that dropping 1 or 2 of them and allowing the other stories to breathe might have been to the benefit of the whole, allowing you to dig deeper on each individual story as opposed to just skimming along the surface. I mean, there's nothing to say you can't make another documentary in a few years' time on the same topic and return to the stories that you missed out this time. Also, I'm not sure if I'm getting old, but the sound seemed to drop off in the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Turn it up! Turn it up!
But that was probably my earbuds getting low on battery. Aside from that, this is a well put together documentary. I like that it doesn't linger on the inciting incident. The stories that it tells, even if there are too many of them, are interesting and worthy of more development. And I get keeping the runtime to 90 minutes. That's fine. Any documentary longer than that should be turned into a miniseries at best and edited down at worst. But within that framework, there should be 3 to 4 strands at most. However, this documentary did fulfill my questions. I left with more knowledge than I had, the talking heads were informative and in focus, and there were no dramatic reenactments, which is always a plus for me. So, yeah, this is a good start to a very promising career. As for a Champagne Supernova story, add some narration, drop the number of stories, then expand the ones that are left, and possibly entwine them as you did in the last 10 minutes, and I think this would have been a more rewarding experience to watch. Or turn it into a mini-series. That would have been good too. So I definitely think that you should see it. And if you do choose to see it, it's not yet on Prime or Netflix on iPlayer. You can find it on Vimeo. There will be a link in the description box. So I've been Daniel, it's been a Dunking. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.